Those kind of events are really cool, like the all-star cast
Yeah.
shows. Like Chris Myers, the Christmas one that he'll do.
Yep.
The sleigh
ride.
deal.
Sleigh ride.
Yeah. Really cool.
And you can pull them off here in this city because
They're left and right.
Yeah, they're here. Nobody's flying in.
Right.
Maybe a few people, but it's really easy. And then when charities are involved, the budget is you're not having to work within the confines of a budget. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean that show Friday was really really good. It was I think his 4th year doing it. Andrew,
So cool.
is a friend of mine, and he has a band, Andrew Leahy in the Homestead, but he also plays with Elizabeth Cook. He's her guitarist, and he just puts together a really stellar. You should check out the lineup from that show on Friday. It's just a stellar cast of. Butch Walker was there, John Oates, the Moon Taxi guys, Nicole Adkins. It was solid.
Well, so you've been on the road with Moon Taxi a bit. You've been on the road with a bunch of other artists.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell the cameras
Yeah.
what you guys kind of do? Like what, maybe not the origin stories quite yet, but just like a general...
The business card.
Yeah.
The business, the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
So my name's Dr. Charlie Kautz. This is Dr. Shayan Ghaffari. We are chiropractors here in Nashville, Tennessee. Our business, our clinic is named the Fine Tune Clinic. And essentially what we are is we are a chiropractic clinic that is primarily branded and marketed to serve the Nashville's music community. I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin previously, and was a chiropractor up there, but I did a lot of treatments and sessions where I was treating musicians, but it was all on site. So I was going to music venues around the country, primarily in the Midwest, and setting up for the day and treating musicians as their chiropractor because they didn't have access to healthcare on the road. And it was a side gig that went over so well, and I found out that it was such a needed thing that I decided to make it kind of my life's pursuit, my career's pursuit. So living in Milwaukee, there's not a lot of musicians that reside there. So it was at that point I decided I needed to move to Nashville so I could not have to worry about traveling so much. We still do that occasionally, and we still do a lot of on-site stuff. But I wanted a home base and a mecca and a clinic that could serve the Nashville music community. So I moved here in 2019 to open up that space. Shayan joined me in
23.
23. You shadowed me before that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he started shadowing me for a 2 or 3 month preceptorship, and that led to him joining the practice full time. And so the two of us, along with my wife Amanda, who's a registered nurse, and our office manager, kind of helped to serve the Nashville community out of our space in downtown Nashville, right behind City Winery. But doing all these things, it was just blatantly obvious that it's a giant need that's not being fulfilled. There are sports clinics everywhere, all over. You look around, you can see sports orthopedics and sports chiropractic and physical therapy clinics that are branded to that community everywhere. And there's just as many musicians in this city as there are athletes. So it was just very obvious. And the music community is a close-knit community, especially here. And word spreads fast. So we're a different kind of chiropractor. We do a lot of soft tissue work. We do a lot of exercise rehabilitation, but most importantly, we do a lot of education too. So it's very thorough. It's non-cookie cutter. Everyone that walks in our door gets a different treatment, and even from treatment to treatment for the same person, that might change because it just depends on what we find and what's going on that day. But we run an education-based practice where we try to teach that patient about what it is that's going wrong and what it is that we can implement and teach them to prevent their pain symptoms from flaring back up again, whether that be ergonomic changes, or things that they're doing habitually that they're just not aware of that are leading to their symptoms. Because most people that walk into our doors, they don't know why they hurt. They know they hurt, but they don't know why, right? Now, if you slip and fall on the ice, that's one thing. We know the culprit. We know why.
Root cause of it.
Yeah. So then we have to study ergonomics. We have to study habits at home. We have to analyze them. We have to do an orthopedic examination. We have to piece all that information together and try to teach them things that they can do and changes that they can make to help counteract those issues. So that's what we strive to do. That's kind of our mission at the Fine Tune Clinic. And, especially with touring musicians who are not home all the time, I think they need that kind of care.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that's why our whole practice style became that way, is because I started to work with musicians. I would only see them one time because they were just passing through town. So you
would show up with like your briefcase, and you got some funny stories
little
about like
portable table.
You'd bring it up in like the alleyway, and just find any time that you could to be able to crack somene's back.
Yeah, and I would also have to teach them as much as I could in this short little period of time because I wasn't going to see them again. And so I found that worked. And so then I tried to translate that treatment and practice style to my everyday clinic in Milwaukee, but we were seeing more patients than I wanted to see. So then, that's why I had to kind of break off and do my own thing, and Nashville was the logical fit for that.
Yeah. How'd you find Charlie? Sorry.
So while I was in school, I talked to a friend of mine who lived in DC. He was a house music DJ and a producer. I was on break. And
Enamor.
Yeah, his name is Enamor. Shout out to him.
Wait, that's the name of it.
That's his name,
okay.
yeah.
That's not NAMM convention. It's everything.
And I told him, it was toward the end of my time at Palmer, which is where I went to school in San Jose. And I was like, I want to work with musicians. I think it'll be really cool. And I loved just being involved in music. I'd been to a number of, many different types of festivals. I played instruments growing up, different instruments. And he was like, I think I have this guy's info. I worked with him in Milwaukee like 4 or 5 years ago or something like that.
He opened up for Lane 8, if you've ever heard of Lane 8.
Oh, heard of it.
Yeah, so Lane 8 was playing. He was opening up for them in Milwaukee. Charlie was there. And Charlie handed Enamor a card. Enamor kept that card for I don't know how many years. And he's like, let me see if I have this guy's card. He ended up having it. And it took me a few months to reach out to Charlie initially. And when I reached out to him, his first response was, how'd you get this card? How'd you get this email? Because I don't use this email anymore. It's my personal email. He had rebranded. He had changed everything up. And so we had a little bit of a discourse, decided that I would come shadow him before obligating myself to staying here and doing a preceptorship, which is what I originally wanted to do. So just trying to test the waters, see if it will work out, kind of vibe it out between the two of us.
Yeah, I think that's when I met you.
Yes, for that week I was shadowing him, and it was really great because I not only learned a lot about his why, but I also got a chance to learn about Charlie just as a person and his family. He mentioned his wife Amanda, who's also our office manager at the time. They weren't married, but I got a chance to meet her, and he actually allowed me to stay with him. So when I, sight unseen, basically, I came and I spent a week with him at his house, and it was cool. We hung out, and I think that's why it's worked out, is because that worked out.
Funny story. Funny story on that note. I was working a show at Marathon Music Works. Yeah. And we had gone out to lunch right before we went to the show.
This is my first day meeting him.
First day meeting.
First day.
And I won't say what restaurant, I won't say what band we were working with. But
wait, where are we?
Marathon
Music Works.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we went out to eat, and I remember walking back from the restaurant to the clinic to get my gear, and I was like, oh, my stomach feels funky. And we headed to the show, and I got through half the patients, and I went to the bathroom, and I was sick. Food poisoning.
Something's wrong.
We knew it was the food.
Straight up food poisoning.
Yeah.
And I was halfway through, and I didn't want to I remember COVID was still kind of a thing.
Sure.
And I didn't want to sound like I was telling the the tour manager, like I didn't want to worry him to think I had COVID because I didn't.
Right.
It was very clearly food poisoning. So I was like, I gotta just like truck through this, but I can't treat these people. So I was like, Shayan, you're gonna have to step it up, my friend. You're gonna have to take over and treat the rest of these patients.
Now's your time to shine.
So that was the real test.
That
was great.
Yeah, it was crazy because I didn't know what to do. Like he looked terrible. I mean, he looked. I mean, he put it on like you wouldn't be able to tell, like if he was treating you, but I could tell.
Right.
I
it
could
wasn't
tell
fun.
that he was.
You guys had food poisoning before.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
It is terrible.
He looked.
You have it?
I kind of think I've never had it.
Yeah,
I only
you
had it
no.
once, and it was recent.
There is no
Maybe I have.
question. If
Yeah.
you have to think about it, you have
Especially
not.
from
Yeah.
shellfish or seafood. Sorry, from seafood, it's
We
Yeah.
were pretty sure. We looked it up. We did the research. I
It
got
was
a fish taco,
fish
and we were
taco.
pretty sure that it was the fish.
Okay.
because we got
Well-
the exact same food except he had fish taco. I didn't have fish taco.
Okay.
I mean,
But you're getting Tennessee fish, dude.
so I went. I remember
it's
I
a
went
landlocked.
home.
It's a landlocked.
I got into
state.
bed. I went to bed like as soon as we got back. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I was fine the next day.
He offered me a job, and I moved here in August of 23.
Okay.
Drove down here from Washington D.C. And yeah, I've been here ever since.
What do you think about
it's been-
Nashville?
I love it so far. I really love it. It's a small town vibe, which is a nice change of pace from DC. And I went to school in San Jose, so a lot of different places, a lot of different energies. But I really appreciate the vicinity to nature, how close it is geographically to both the East and West Coast. Like it's close to get back home to DC. It's only like an 80-minute flight. Not too bad to get out west.
Right.
The airport's pretty easy.
Yep. You're at the run clubs all the time. Too.
Run clubs, well, let's not get into that. I haven't been in a while.
I've seen you a few times.
Neither of you.
You have. Oh
Hey.
wow, getting called out.
I'm just coming back.
Yeah.
Me
I'm
too.
just
Hey, it's
coming
the
back.
hip flexor. Man.
Getting.
You
I'm
gotta-
coming
Yeah.
back. Too.
I don't think it is.
There you
Oh,
go.
really?
Well, it's kind of funny how you said it earlier, like how you guys treat from the root. Did I go to you for my foot or my
Yeah.
hip? Was it my
Foot.
foot?
Check your big toe or something.
Both.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good memory. Yeah.
No, both of them. I saw you for both separate times.
Yeah. So the foot came first
Yeah.
because I rolled the heck out of it on a run like maybe a year and a half ago or so. It still hurts. But I'm like, I'm coming back, baby.
Mhm.
It feels good. Like I was able to do 8.5 today. Next to no pain, like 5% pain, I would say. But that foot came first for sure. And then the hip came second,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm overcompensating.
Because you're offloading some of that weight onto the opposite side. And I remember I remember the hip resolved semi quickly.
I had 2 hip things.
Oh,
So I
gotcha.
had one, it was like,
your glute. One was like your glute.
it was the glute. Yeah. You've had to red light my right butt cheek
Yeah, laser.
3 times.
You haven't let me do any fascial work on you. We have to see how that fares.
Yeah, Shayan is what we call a fascial specialist. So he utilizes a technique called fascial manipulation.
Is that like hard massage?
Pretty much.
Not hard massage. I would say it's cross friction, but it's like where I'm doing it is the methodology. I would say like the spots that I'm hitting aren't just like
Muscle bellies.
random. Yeah, there's a map. Like I map some things out. They utilize basically acupuncture points, but a lot of times it can impact muscle and other tissue like very far away from where the source of the issue is. And by issue, I just mean densification. You can think of it as just an area that's very, very hard and isn't moving. Like the layers of tissue aren't moving very well.
Fascia is like the
So-
glue that holds your the muscles and rest of the parts of your body together.
Okay.
And so he works these fascial planes. So
Right.
I find that people get a lot of benefit in their biomechanics and their movement patterns because they've had their muscles targeted and worked on, but they've never had fascial tissue addressed.
Interesting.
Especially in like endurance athletes. So I've been sending a lot of like the runner, because we see like I'd say like 80% of our patient demographic are people in the music community, but
right.
Taylor and I know each other because we're both runners, and so that's how we met. And then we found that we have the common bond of the music community, and I would say probably a good other portion of the people that come and see us that aren't musicians are runners because
well, you're just you both are
we're in the trenches and so and runners are a lot like musicians where if you help one of them they tell all their friends, and before you know it you're seeing 10 people from one little circle,
right?
But we've had really, 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 really good results with a lot of these endurance runners who are putting up, 50 to 80 miles a week, and have had these chronic issues come and go. And they've seen, PTs, chiros, massage therapists, and, they've gotten temporary relief, but not really like long-term results. And that's simply because they haven't had other tissues and parts of their body addressed, right? And so that's when you pair chiropractic adjustments with myofascial work along with proper education and biomechanical strengthening of areas that are weak that we can identify, then you get a really solid result.
Right. Like when you have activities where there's like a repetitive nature to it, like running or drumming or guitar playing, like you're going to be pounding on the same thing all the time.
There's that, but also injuries, and every musician or an individual has their own unique history of injuries or traumas, and those traumas over time can cause you to have compensation.
Like where you broke your ankle.
Common
injury.
Injury. Did I say industry twice?
Well, I would say generally speaking, with like string instrument players, like guitar, bass, like one thing that I look at commonly and assess is how they're holding their wrist. So we're looking for wrist neutrality, because if the wrist is in flexion or extension and that's their like home base, then you're going to be pre-contracted in your resting state. So like if this is your resting state, your flexor muscles are pre-contracted, and so they're never truly in a resting state, even when you're not playing, right? And so if you look at some of the best guitarists on the planet that have had a very long career and still are playing, 99% of them all play in perfect wrist neutrality.
Right.
I mean, if you look at their wrists, their home base, their resting state is like this.
Their normal resting state.
Yeah, not like this, not like this, right? And so that's something I look at, especially if the person's complaining of arm or hand problems, right? Because like even if you have thumb pain, like those muscles and tendons that control flexion of that thumb, they run up all the way into your forearm.
Yeah, that's a big thing for drummers too, because they'll tend to squeeze their fulcrum a lot.
Yep.
So pain will happen here, or they'll get pain in there, and then like sometimes the elbow too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and even if the pain is in the finger, typically where pain is, just very generally speaking, where your pain is not the problem. Now, if it was a traumatic injury, like you fell on your hip and you broke your hip, that's a different story. I'm talking about like injuries and pains of insidious nature that just kind of gradually started happening. 99% of the time, the pain, where the problem location is, this is true in his fascial work, this is true in basically anything, it is not where you're experiencing the symptoms. And that's a very hard concept to try to get my patients to. I have a patient who's from a European country and she barely speaks English. And it's very, very, very hard for me to communicate why I'm treating an area that's different from where her symptoms are.
Right.
because she won't understand this conversation I just had. She wouldn't understand it. So like throughout her session, she's always like, it hurts here. Right. And I'm like, I know. Like, you know, so it's like, and a lot of that is because those area, I mean, you know, our muscles span a larger area than people realize, but also just pain signals are very complicated.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's just knowing, you know, I have 13 years of practice under my belt, and, you know, all of those 13 years have been with musicians. And so I see the similar patterns over and over and over, and you just start to kind of like know what to do. For drummers specifically, another thing that I look at is like shoulder position when they're playing. And so
that was Chris's deal too, Chris Myers?
Yeah, I mean,
he had a shoulder deal.
You know, if you're playing like this, this shoulder is an internal rotation and adduction. So those are like two things that are promoting shoulder impingement, right? Now, if you're having a right shoulder problem and you're going home every night and sleeping on your right side, well, guess what position your shoulder's in when you're sleeping on your side? Internal rotation and adduction, right? So you're playing like this, then you're sleeping like this. Then you're also on your computer and your cell phone all day. You don't think this right shoulder's going to hurt?
Yeah.
And so
I might even have something similar to that, like, because I'm always shifted this way because of the way I sit behind the kit,
and your right shoulder's shrugged up too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing it as an example, but it is normally, you know me, my posture isn't that good, like, so I will kind of do shoulders up, and I wonder if it's
you should drop the shoulders a little bit,
right? Because
your upper trap's contracted constantly to do that. Now, again, if you go home every night and you sleep like that, that's 7 or 8 hours that you're in this position, and that's a very controllable habitual change. So if I had someone that was complaining of right shoulder problems, I did a observational biomechanical assessment where I see they're playing like this, and you know, I do a couple orthopedic tests and find that, you know, they're hurting in shoulder internal rotation and shoulder adduction. Well, they don't need to be sleeping like that. So I'm like, look, you know, sometimes musicians freak out when I give them 4 or 5 exercises to do. They won't do them. It's fine, but like, not sleeping on your right side is a pretty easy thing to do. You might wake up on that side, but at least don't fall asleep like that.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes just getting them to do that is enough to allow their shoulder to have the opportunity to heal every night. Between when they're using that shoulder functionally heavily, because that's what we look at musicians as being athletes. That's how we view them, you know, because it's repetitive motions over and over and over. You know, it's a different muscle group than most athletes, but, you know, that's kind of our lens. That's how we're seeing it, and that's how we're approaching the care of these people. And, you know, the thing is athletes have every type of healthcare provider under the sun at their disposal, and they're very educated.
Yeah.
Musicians may have seen a chiropractor, massage therapist a couple times in their life, but they're not that educated on these things. And so I find teaching musicians the most simplest of concepts goes a long way.
Like what, if you could bring it down to 3 concepts that have helped a lot?
For drummers specifically, like one is not sitting in lumbar flexion.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, most of us
stopped doing it.
And you're good about it. Like you'll kind of.
I catch
Max is really good about it too.
Yeah, I think it's bigger for drummers, I would say, than for average people. But because you have to be sitting for a certain amount of time. Most people can get up and they can move.
Yeah.
But for drummers especially, the problem is with most things is like you're in a position for a long period of time, but then it becomes more difficult to go into other positions. That's where the problem comes from. So it's like you're not moving. You're hardening almost like in a shell if you think about it. It's more so from the not moving.
Yeah,
that's the issue. I'm
reading Tony Robbins has a really good book called Life Force.
Yeah.
I love all the stuff he's talking about in it, but he says like the sitting is the new smoking right now.
Totally.
Because there's so many people, and I would bet
movement is medicine.
1,000,000%. Motion is lotion.
There you go. All of shit is lotion.
But yeah, I mean, I bet that's a reason why a lot of people have really weak hips right now, and maybe for me specifically, like sitting all day. I'm sitting all day.
It's the not moving. I think it's really difficult to keep anything going, meaning like building muscle, building anything in your body if you're not using it. You know, your body's going to take the path of least resistance. If there's no reason to build muscle or to build cardiovascular strength or to do anything, why would your body allocate any energy toward that? It's going to do what you ask it to do. And if you don't ask it to do anything, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, and then if you're used to sitting 10 hours a day, guess what? It's going to adapt to that too.
Yes.
So then when you do other things, they're more difficult.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, you know, assessing each individual situation of each individual person and finding out what are the primary things that this person is doing that's contributing to their symptoms, and then also the most simple ways to introduce a thing that I know they're going to do.
Right.
You know, because I could give them all these exercises and all these things to do and tell them to start running and go to the gym, but they may not do any of those. So it's like, what is this person going to buy into? And that's being a good coach.
Yeah.
You know, not a good chiropractor.
Like meeting them where they're at. I know that you,
and there's an art to that.
Yeah.
You had asked about what, I guess, heavy hitters are important for just most musicians. And I think something that applies to not only musicians, but everyone is, when you go see a practitioner, are they educating you to help address your fears? Because a lot of times people come in and they're afraid because they're in pain and they're freaking out because maybe there's a lot of pain. But sometimes you have a lot of pain, but the issue isn't like a tremendous or serious issue. For example, if you get a really bad splinter in your hand, like your whole hand could be hurting, but it's like a really tiny splinter.
Yeah, I like
right?
that. Yeah.
So the key is understanding that it's just a splinter. So you come in and a professional exam is going to, tell us what's going on. And if someone can quell your fears and explain why something's happening, that's going to help so much with pain. Like pain is so exacerbated by a lot of different factors that aren't completely mechanical, meaning like something's pushing on something else. So your emotions, state of mind, stress, dehydration, family history, you could have pain in fear of something. Like if you have a dream that Sammy Sosa's coming up to hit you in the head with a bat, and you wake up right before you're getting hitting the head with the bat, you're probably going to feel some pain in your head.
Right.
So there is a component where it is in your head, not to mean that it's not real, but you do have to work through pain. And that's the empowering part, is showing patients, hey, it's okay to feel some pain. Let's work through the pain, meaning you can feel the pain, acknowledge the pain, still work through some of the pain. Don't be negligent. But then that tells your brain, hey, it's okay to move this area. Yeah. We don't have to be as afraid.
Because there's some people that just go into avoidance mode and they go, oh, it hurts to do this, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. And then long term, that makes it worse because those particular muscles or whatever are going to weaken over time. Right. And again, sometimes you need to do that, but that's why it's important to go to a healthcare professional like us and try to get the particular thing addressed. I have people that hit me up all the time and they say, hey, my low back is killing me. Can you send me some exercises? And it's like, it really depends on a lot of different factors, because there's the types of exercises I give you are dependent on so many variables. Sure. And I could run through the whole thing, but it's not as simple as me just sending you the low back protocol and going on our way. Yeah. That's also why it's dangerous to be your own doctor and Google things. Yeah. Right. Because you could be doing something that's literally the exact opposite of what you want to do.
Right. Yeah. And you don't know what you don't know too.
Like if you have what we call a hot disc in your low back, you're going to be if it's a flexion intolerant low back disc issue, if you do forward bending exercises, you're going to make it worse. Yeah. And so it's very situational, and that's where the non-cookie cutter approach to healthcare is invaluable. And knowing when to incorporate certain things and having a game plan, but also as a patient, you want those things. You want a game plan, and you want expectations. You want to know, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. And, that's really helpful, at least for me, is just knowing what it is that's going on. Yeah. Right. Because then you have direction and you can do your Googling a little bit more dialed in. Right? Yeah. If you have a diagnosis.
What's going on, everybody? I'm interrupting the podcast because I've finally launched what I've been talking about on this podcast for a very long time, Groove MPL, Groove Music Production Lessons. This website is focused on two main things: how you can use Ableton on stage as playback, and independent music producers in Nashville. How do they do it? How do they get clients? How do they work out the contracts? So every month there's a new course available on the site, and we got courses like Adam Leeds diving into how he has been able to produce for just monster artists here like Starlito, Young Buck, and a bunch of different artists. We got the drummer from Maggie Rose, Timothy Burkhead, showing how he uses Ableton in his SPD pad to control the live show and have it run seamlessly. Austin Cannon, who's breaking down how do the contracts work between you and the artist. These courses really are here because they cover topics that are hard to find, and they're important topics that are necessary to get you from point A to point B. That information in between shouldn't be hard to find, and having it in one central location I think is super important, so I'm very excited to share it with you all. Again, you can sign up at groovempl.com with the discount code GGP for Garden Groove Podcast, and you'll get 50% off your first month. I'm looking forward to meeting you all.
Right.
I wanted to ask about because you said the Body Keeps the Score. It was one of the books that you referenced, and then you just mentioned the carrying stress or certain emotions in part of the body. I was just curious about that because I have heard that before, and I just wanted to hear if y'all were, clearly y'all are believers in that. So just kind of, do you find that there you can sort of get down to the root of things by just talking to people and seeing where that pain is, and or is it always maybe kind of up in the air? You're not 100% sure what it is they're carrying where. Like how do you incorporate that?
I think it's important with every person that comes in to figure out what their goal is, because if you don't work towards a goal with them, then there's not going to be a real point, honestly, of them being there. Why are they there? What are they working toward? So when there's a common goal, then educating them on what they might be doing, it's almost like you're playing detective. Like right. You're listening to their story, and then you're trying to figure out what in their story could be adding to their problem. So right. to kind of simplify things.
Yeah.
And broadly with fascial manipulation, I'm looking at things very like macro scale, like not right. very, like science and medicine does a really good job of going like really in depth. Mm-hmm. And I start, and not to say that that's bad,
right.
That's necessary sometimes, but I think it's easy to miss sometimes what's right in front of you, and some that's not so deep, proverbially or literally.
Yeah.
So with that being said, like I try to pick up things in their activities of daily life, different habits they might have, food they eat, sleep. Like, you can't come to me with a lot of issues and also not sleep, drink all the time, eat terribly, and expect
you're
me
average
to do anything.
touring musician.
Yeah.
I
1,000,000%.
I tell people, I'm not in the business of fixing people. I educate you, and I kind of help facilitate your body to fix itself by educating you, and then you make some habitual changes and different. I'm not going to be with you 24/7, sitting on your shoulders saying, "Don't do this, don't eat this, don't do that." You're only human. You want to enjoy your life,
but it does play a big role.
Sure. And that's where the goal comes in. I think is if someone comes in and they have a goal, and then I can help them reach that goal, then they buy into. Sometimes treatment isn't fun and it hurts. Or doing PT exercises, they suck because, obviously you don't want to fail, or you don't want to do something that's so difficult that might seem really easy. A lot of times certain exercises look really simple, but they're really difficult.
Right. Yeah, dude, like clams. What is that one? Courtney gave me those. Feel so dumb doing them.
Clams or things that you wouldn't think require a lot of like mental energy. You're like, whoa, why can I not do this?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like a perfect example of what he was saying is there's a lot of times people that come into me with, for example, tennis elbow, lateral epicondylitis, which is essentially anything with the word itis at the end of it means inflammation of, right? So that's just inflammation of a muscle at your elbow. Drummers get it.
Yep.
That person, I discover basically is living off fast food and is getting like 3-4 hours of sleep a night.
Yep. Not drinking water.
Getting drunk before they go to bed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lecture them on all those things, but I do make them aware that, hey, even though you're using this elbow quite a bit, would they have, because of those repetitive motions, would they have inflammation of their elbow if they weren't doing all these things that are leading to systemic inflammation?
Right.
Wendy's and fast food and, cooking with vegetable oils and like eating sugar, like all these things are pro-inflammatory. There's no arguing that.
Yeah. Even just day-to-day stress too.
All of it.
Right? Like work stress could even inflame the body, right?
So yes, I could treat their elbow, which is what they're expecting when they come in. All they're expecting is me to treat their elbow. But like, to be honest, them making changes in those other 3 or 4 categories is going to be way more effective in treating. I could not touch their elbow, and I could say, hey, I'm not going to touch your elbow, and you make changes in these other 3 or 4 things. You'll save a lot of money not coming in and giving me, paying me to treat you. Yeah. And you're going to get better results than you will by me just treating you and you not making these changes. Again, nobody's perfect. I'm not telling everyone to live like
perfect, healthy,
the perfect epitome of health. But I'm like, hey, look, there's these 4 things that are contributing to this condition. Which are the ones that you think you can do the best at?
Yeah.
Pick 2.
Sure, yeah. Start somewhere.
Yeah, or like maybe eat half your meals like out at a fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it's, again, assessing each case individually and also reading the individual as a person and being like, okay, like, what's kind of person am I dealing with here? Is this person all in right now, or are they here because their wife or husband sent them in?
Yeah,
So it's kind of knowing where you're gonna
reading that situation,
because ultimately everybody wants the same thing in the room. We want the best result as quick as possible, with them spending as little amount of time and money with me as they possibly can, because we spend $0 in marketing. We're a word of mouth practice.
I love that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I never have. I've never needed to. Knock on wood. Thank you. And it's just.
I do marketing if you need it.
Yeah. And that's because people can tell we're very passionate about what we do, and we're literally trying. What we're literally trying to do is get them to come in as little as possible.
Yeah. They just have to be willing to take responsibility, and I think some people, unfortunately, want something to fix them, and they don't want
they externalize
they don't want to be a part of what's going on. So I think that's when I was mentioning the goal, that's kind of more of what I meant. Is this person, like Charlie said, are they willing to take the responsibility to address these things? Because there's so many things that are under your control, and that's part of empowering patients that I think is the most important thing.
Yes,
sure. I actually did have a kind of a business question, which was, it sort of stems from you touring with musicians. I think this could be kind of a broad thing that you could speak to, but tour budgets are pretty tight generally, even on the upper levels. And so how do you communicate value as like, hey, you need me on this? I mean, I'm sure results speak for themselves, but it's just interesting to me that you're able to find your niche there in an industry that's...
When I first started doing it, a lot of it was just giving them intro treatments. So they got, like, when I first started doing it, I would go to music festivals with my buddies Moon Taxi. They put me on their crew list as their tour chiropractor. And then I'd go around and knock on the dressing room doors of all my favorite bands. And I'd be like, hey, I'm a chiropractor. I'm here with another band. Would you like a free session with me as an intro to who I am and what I do? And so then I'd hang with them for a few hours, and it would go over long. But hey, I'm based in Milwaukee. If you're ever in town, hit me up. I'll keep my eyes on your tour schedule, and if I see you're here too, I'll reach out to you and we can make something work. And so what we do is which kind of helps with the budget issues, is we offer like a 4-hour flat rate or an 8-hour flat rate, which is basically a day rate, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's same as anyone else on tour is getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something that the tour is covering and they have a budget for, that's the route they'll go. But the other option we offer is that we'll offer that we can just come and set up, and as long as there's enough interest, we'll just charge the tour a very small trip fee. And then people can just pay us individually like they would in our clinic.
Oh, cool.
And so that kind of gives flexibility on which option. Honestly, most tours will go the day rate option, which is really cool because they're taking care of their people, right?
Yeah, totally.
But that's kind of what I've formulated over the years of trying to figure out what worked best and in this industry. I've tried to take what chiropractors do, find out how the music industry operates, and find out how the two can kind of work together in unison financially. But that's kind of how it was all pieced together. And really it was a combination of just being exposed to me as an intro, or a lot of it again was word of mouth. So you'd have like a tour manager that worked with me when I was with this band on this tour, and then that tour manager bounced to another tour, and he was like, "Oh, we got to hit up the chiropractor guy." And so that kind of thing happens all the time in this world. So over the year, I've been doing this for 13 years. So over the years of doing this for as long as I have, you just get to know people, and a lot of times I'll meet people now, and honestly, they know who I am, and we've never met. Just because to my knowledge, there is no other chiropractor that is doing what we are doing to the extent at which we are doing it in the music community, which is, really an honor, but also just shows that there's
a gap in the market,
a gap and a big need for what we do.
How often did you find yourself on tour becoming the nutritionist more than the chiropractor? Because tours tend to run on beer and fast food and seed oils. So how often or do you find yourself battling that?
If they asked me, we would dive into that. I also don't I found you have to be when you're on tour, you have to be a good hang.
You don't want to be
that's part of the whole thing is bringing an energy to the tour that is a morale booster, and just this fresh face, this fresh energy that shows up and is doing good things for people and teaching people good things in an environment, in a situation that is not that. So you don't want to go in there and just start lecturing people, but certainly if it has something to do with the case that I'm dealing with, I'll let the patient know in a very tasteful manner. But I'm not, walking around with no seed oil signs and, you're
taking burgers out of hands,
grabbing the tequila bottle and hiding it behind the couch. It's just, again, being tasteful and trying to,
offering
honestly be someone that they like hanging out with. And it's been amazing. I've been able to become really good friends with a lot of my favorite bands, and so it's been cool to kind of be a part of the thing that we love and appreciate. You know?
Absolutely.
And be a mentor and a guide, and so if it was my choice, I'd be up there on stage ripping it in front of 10,000 people too. But that ain't gonna happen. So
you're pretty good at guitar. I've seen some Instagram videos.
That's an electric ukulele.
Oh, that is right. Yeah. You got the little baby guitar.
Yeah, there aren't many in a town where there's a lot of different kinds of instrument players. There's not many electric uke players in town.
You just 4 strings?
4 strings.
I always thought it was like a mini guitar.
Yeah, well, it's
I guess it is, but you know what I mean.
It's a 19-inch neck, so it's a tenor, but it's a little, the neck's 2 inches longer than it normally is, and it's tuned in a low G instead of a high G. So traditional uke tunings, high G, C, E, D, A. So it's a low G, so it does have that mini electric guitar feel.
Right.
It's kind of like Michael Kang and String Cheese Incident. That's kind of like how I like playing. It's electric, so I like kind of using pedals and
we should have made you bring it.
Yeah, we could have jammed.
We could have done it. That'd be cool.
Next
a little electric uke jam.
Yeah.
Next time.
We used to do jams every episode, and then we started bringing on artists that were playing their own stuff. And we also would end up almost always having 2 drummers because we had.
I felt so dumb. Like we had like Timothy Burkhead.
Yeah.
Or
Tim. I met Tim through Moon Taxi.
Dude, he's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best.
He's just so cool.
Shout out Tim.
Shout out Tim, dude. You're like Jake Summers and like Jackson's ripping guitar and then they're on drums
just holding it
and
down
I'm just like in tambourine in the corner and I give myself the bad camera so anytime it goes on me it's like, this feels dumb.
It was fun. We had a good time.
It was always
with it.
fun.
Yeah, I think I'll keep the. I don't want to embarrass myself.
You know.
You keep finding holes in the market, you know.
Yeah, there you go.
You got a knack for. You should just be you should do consulting. Or
That's
something.
good. I like that. Yeah, you can see my where my head's at.
Yeah, your
That's
innovative spirit, you know.
Yeah,
always
the
looking
electric uke musician's chiropractor guy.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got merch like Brandon ukuleles.
I should change this.
Yeah,
to the
right.
electric
Yeah.
uke.
Well,
just
you
take
got
2 of
three
the tuning
strings on
pegs
that.
off of there. And
Oh
then
yeah, I
you
need to
got
add a
it.
string.
You have
Well, no, just take 2 of these away.
do you have 3
take 2 of the
strings and
tuning
6
pegs
knobs?
off and add a string, and then you got it.
Charlie, what kind of guitar is that?
It's
I
a
don't know.
it's
Is it
a
3
AI?
strings and 6
there's
tuners.
3 strings.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's two tuners per string.
Yeah. So they're extra in tune.
Extra in tune. That's right.
It's like when AI generates a guitar and there'll be like
Yeah, totally.
7 tuners on there or something.
They know something we don't.
Yeah,
That's right. We
They're
had it
onto
wrong.
The robots are man. They know. They know what's up.
They're showing the guitars of the future, not the current
Yeah.
ones.
right.
Do you have any success stories from the road? Like, do you have any like people that were really hurting, and then you blasted them with some red light and fixed them up?
I have had several of those. I don't know if I can talk about them though.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
HIPAA.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have
Actually.
people's medical information on blast.
I honestly have some I could talk about, but
Yeah.
I'd have to sit down and think about it and be
Yeah.
strategic about it.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
yeah, patient privacy is obviously important in what we do.
That's
I
great.
have gotten to work with, a lot of very big acts, and most of them are totally cool with me talking about it. But
Yeah, you've had some really cool acts.
yeah,
Greta Van Fleet,
yep,
Lewis the Child,
yep,
which I love.
mm-hmm,
Moon Taxi.
yep. Got to do T-Swift tour in 2015.
Oh,
The
really?
1989 tour. Yep,
I didn't know that one.
That's cool.
yep.
2015.
A lot of shows at Panic at the Disco.
No, it's 10 years ago.
My Morning Jacket.
Yep.
Rufus du
Humphreys
Sol.
McGee.
Freeze.
Yeah, Rufus du Sol.
Rufus du Sol.
Yeah,
my first
great.
Rufus du Sol show I worked was in 2016.
Yeah.
It was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin,
Nice.
and I met him at Lollapalooza a month before we did this show in Milwaukee, and it was the capacity at this venue was 400, and there were probably about 270 people in there.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Now look at that.
time.
Yeah.
Rufus du Sol
And it was cool because when we were all there, we knew. We were seeing this show and we just knew. We were like, dude, these guys are gonna be huge.
You
And they're
could already
totally
tell.
and they are very cool. Very cool dudes.
I believe it.
It's been cool to be with them kind of from they were already big. They they just weren't big in the US at the time.
Yeah.
But to kind of like see them grow and
Yeah, really
anytime
cool.
we're in the same place at the same time, they'll have us out.
It's cool.
We'll be at their show in May, I'm sure.
Nice.
Are y'all, as far as like touring stuff goes, have you sort of backed off from just because you have your own brick and mortar situation now? Do you still tour every year, or is it something that you just kind of take it as it comes, like as the opportunities arise, or are you?
So I would say we typically don't do full tours.
Okay.
There's one that we may do this spring, a really big tour, 2 really big artists going on tour together.
Okay.
Both kind of Nashville-based acts. And we've worked with both acts, so it kind of makes sense for us to like do that because there'd be a huge need for it. It'd probably be a combo of the 2 of us, but usually I would say if it's a really big tour, how we will be utilized is they'd have us out for like a 2-night run every couple weeks.
Okay.
That's great.
Checkpoints.
Yeah.
Or obviously if they're passing through Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Or if there's a need for it. If one of the stars throws their back out and they need someone to manage the case for 4 or 5 days,
Right.
figure it out, treat the person. So there's multiple ways we're utilized, but very rarely have I ever really done a full tour.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mostly because I had ties. I had to get back and
Sure, yeah.
treat patients, and
That's kind of what I
and
figured.
nor did I think that my style of practice really made it a necessity to treat people every day, right? So like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I could treat people and then give them things to work on between the sessions and
Sure.
stay in touch, and that was sufficient enough and
Yeah.
saved the tour a lot of money.
Yeah, just check-ins,
Yeah.
tune-ups.
It's just nice for quality of
isn't it?
life for you too.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
opposed to just being
be
on the road
anchored.
for. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of why I asked, because I know the business is growing and y'all are, you have your home base. So just wondered, how much do you, is it something that you see yourself kind of always doing a little bit, just like because you love it? And
Yeah. If we're asked to do it, we'll try to make it happen.
yeah,
We may not be able to, but hopefully one day this business grows to the point where we have, clinics in a few different music markets too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd like to start by having maybe 2 or 3 clinics in Nashville, like maybe one in Franklin, maybe one, where we're at in downtown, maybe one out west, something like that. But after that, I think it would be nice to expand to a place like Austin, or LA or wherever.
New York, maybe.
To have
Atlanta,
musician clinics that are trying to do what we're doing here in Nashville.
Sure.
We have really cool partnerships that we've established with organizations that are based out of Nashville, but those organizations are in other markets too. Places like Music Cares, where we've partnered with Music Cares, and they're able to provide the funding that musicians need to get care from us, whether that's a grant, or we also have these biannual clinics we do with them where they cover the sessions of, I think we did like 90 individuals in Nashville. So they covered 2 sessions for 90 different musicians that Shayan and I saw over the course of about 6 weeks. We do that twice a year, which is very, 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 very cool for them, because not only are they taking care of the music community, but they're also linking these musicians up with us to establish a bond and a connection, and to where we can help them with any of their healthcare needs moving forward.
Sure.
So I think those partnerships could spill over to other markets and just lead to the introduction of musicians to individuals like us, and that would really serve those musicians in those communities well moving forward.
Yeah.
So cool, dude. Yeah, it's just been cool to see how much you've grown, even in the time that I've known you. Like being able to bring on more people and
Yeah.
it's just fun to see what you're doing. You're so just like willing to connect people. It seems like you truly are just like willing to help. It's cool. It's been cool to be able to know you
Yeah, thank
and all
you.
the stuff you're doing.
Likewise, brother.
How concerningly fast you got it running too. For such an old man.
That is true. I am old. Very old.
Do you want to
Yeah.
drop your marathon PR time on camera?
I ran a 2:43 on the button,
Let's go.
0-0
Wow.
at New York, which is not a tough course. I think that's the most impressive part about that time. Not
It is
that
a tough course.
Not that it's
Yeah.
impressive. There are way faster runners than me, way faster here in Nashville. But
Yeah.
for me, I never thought I could run that fast, and especially at this age. And it is a very tough course. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I was running for my buddy with ALS, Ben Sturgill.
Yeah.
And it was crazy how much having him and his situation in the back of my mind during this race was like I was
Pushing
struggling, but like, dude,
Yeah.
that guy would give anything to be out there and being able to run.
Yeah.
So it was very cool to do it for him.
On his behalf.
Yeah, on his behalf, for sure.
Yeah.
We raised a lot of money for an ALS organization, Target ALS, which is a research-based organization trying to find a cure and ways to manage the disease. So it was a really fitting race to PR, and I'm glad I could do it as
Really cool.
as a tribute to him, because he's still fighting the fight, but it's kind of on the tail end of his journey, and
Yeah.
and he's just such a wonderful human. So it was he was with me, during that race. So I think it might have been a 250 if I didn't have the mental boost. And
sure.
that goes back to what we talked about earlier, man. It's your thoughts. Your thoughts are really, really important. And whether those are your thoughts on and your energies and your mindset when you're performing, whether that's a race or on stage, but also when you're dealing with pain and problems and issues. Like your mindset and your perception controls your reality, and that's huge. And when you start realizing those things and realizing, the effect that your mindset can have in real time when you're living your life, like you have a powerful tool to manage the outcome of your reality. And so, I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned as I've gotten old, because I wasn't thinking in this way when I was your age, Taylor.
Just a child. Yes.
A young man.
I'm glad you said that though. Like I was kind of thinking of like what I wanted to ask you guys today, and like health. What's like one of the least healthy industries? It's musicians. But I feel like also if you're going to treat things from the source, it's your mindset. Like if you have a bad mindset, that's going to be the difference between even just you going on a run or you eating healthy or it's before the action every time.
I mean, you have to have a proactive mindset just to make the decision to go to our clinic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to choose
It
that
can't
you
get
want to
better.
be better, to get in the car and drive to our clinic to seek the answers that are going to get better, that get you better.
It's before everything else.
Because there's
Or
a
like-
lot of people that are choosing to just, fuck it. I'm just going to, my
I wouldn't
back
even-
hurts, fuck it. I'm going to drink
I
another
have
beer.
back pain now.
I wouldn't even
Yeah.
say choosing
End of
it,
story.
though. It's like a habitual loop that they get caught in.
Yeah.
Sometimes it isn't choosing.
Yeah. And sometimes they know that things are bad for them, but they just don't care.
It's easier to do and just habits. Still just habits.
Yeah.
People that's a huge musician thing. A lot of musicians are struggling with depression and alcoholism, and I think it's 100% caused by the mindset that they have. And we don't catch it.
And most of them have to hit some form of rock bottom or get into some kind of trouble
You got to hit the trampoline.
before they have that instigator to change their approach and their mindset on this situation.
Right.
I know I've had to go through stuff like that where I was like doing things I shouldn't or had bad habits, and it was like one bad thing had to happen before it caused me to change my approach to the situation.
Right.
I
I think it was my freshman year of college, which a lot of people go through, just like some mental stuff at that time, just like transitions and that whole thing. And I was on SSRIs, I was depressed and that whole thing. And I think running took me out of it.
Yeah.
Like I rarely relate things to one solution, but I think running was like the biggest thing that was able to get me out of it. But not just running, not just like casual strolls through the park, but like high intensity workouts changed my life for sure. And there's like chemical reasons for that.
Oh yeah, it's my therapy for sure.
I think I'd be crazy if it wasn't for it. More crazy if it wasn't for it.
It keeps you present when you do it.
You really feel your body.
You have to be in the moment. You have to be present. You can't be thinking about something else. You're not preoccupied with something that might happen, anxiety wise, or something that has happened, like dwelling on something that's happened. Like you're having to do something in the moment, or else you're gonna trip and fall, literally.
Right. Yeah, and like you can't help but realize you're breathing hard. The changing chemistry, that the endorphins that you're getting. There's also something. There's a name to it, but like when you contract your muscles, like they give off something that like is a mood enhancer. It's not just endorphins, it's something else.
Oxytocin.
Maybe. I saw a TikTok. It reminded me of that.
I mean, it's also a disconnect. So like for me, I don't run with a phone, I don't run with music, but like
me too.
when am I ever in a situation where I'm completely disconnected digitally from society?
Yeah.
Never, unless I'm running. And so for me, it's like, okay, I can take a break from this. I'm exercising and I'm working through my shit. I'm thinking about situations. I'm thinking about what I have to do tomorrow. I'm thinking about what I have to do next week. But I'm thinking about it with a very clear head with no distraction.
Yep.
And so
in like a heightened state too.
Yeah, with more blood flow to the brain, my heart rate's up. And so it's, it's my therapy, but it's also like, my disconnect and almost my reset.
Your escapism a little bit.
Yeah. So, and I also love the social aspects of running,
It's the
which
best
is why
part.
I'm, going group runs all the time. I mean, but, half my runs are with people, half my runs are by myself. This morning I ran with our friend Dalton.
Yeah.
We were out at Beeman Park, 15 miles, had a nice chat. Sometimes we wouldn't talk at all, but, it's a very, it brings people together. I know a lot of people that I would have not know if it wasn't for running and running communities.
That's why you're here. Yeah.
That's why we're here on this podcast right now. It's crazy. So I think no matter what it is that you can finding a hobby that is a healthy source of movement and exercise of some kind is crucial to anyone trying to get better from mental health or musculoskeletal issues. Either one.
Movement. Do you think the high intensity thing is essential for it though?
I think it's very, I wouldn't say essential, but I think it's a very, very effective.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you that I feel better after a track workout than I do after a long, slow run.
I agree.
What do you mean by essential? Like essential for what?
It's just it's way different. And I think, going back to when I was in that depressed state, I think I felt more of a difference when I was doing high intensity stuff like track workouts and training for races. Maybe it's goals too that helped, but when I was just casually running, it didn't feel like it was really doing what it did.
I think it's different for different people, and
that's probably true.
if you get a huge dopamine rush when you do certain activities, and I think there's a great deal of dopamine that's released after you've done some crazy difficult thing. You're like, wow, like I did this thing. You got this adrenaline.
That's all
you got
you're
all
thinking
this,
to yourself too,
right? You got all this stuff, this energy going. Like, if you get tired or sleepy in the middle of the day, you literally go sprint for 30 seconds and see how you feel after.
Yeah.
Like, literally sprint as fast as you can for 30 seconds and see it. And I dare you to try to feel tired.
Yeah.
So there's so much surrounding it more than
We're just way more stationary as human beings than we ever have been. Ever.
Yeah.
And that's because, we used to have to climb mountains and, go over this big hill. And now hills are leveled and mountains are cut through and we have cars that carry us from here to here and airplanes. And we have computers and cell phones that people can move millions of dollars around and be totally productive members of society. But if you were to explain that concept to your great-great-great-grandma, they'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
1,000,000%.
How did you have a full-time job of sitting on this screen and
you
just
didn't go
sitting
outside
there?
all week?
And so there were very few professions 3 generations ago that were completely stationary. Scribes and accountants and stuff like that. But the majority of the people had to move around and to go visit their neighbors. They rode their bikes instead of their cars.
Yep.
And so, our society, it's just such a small blip on the total existence of humankind. And so our bodies just aren't adapted to being this stationary. And that's leading to a lot of our problems.
Right.
And that leads back to what we were talking about with people sitting in lumbar flexion constantly. It's we're just not biomechanically designed to handle that load. Our spines aren't. So if we were to do that for, 500 more years, we would visually look different as humans because we would make biomechanical adaptations to handle the habits that we're doing.
Right.
That's why if you sleep with 3 pillows with your neck propped every night, but then are looking down at your phone all day, when you get an x-ray 15 years later, you're going to have a reverse curve in your neck because your neck changed based on your habits.
Yeah.
Right? And that's good on one hand, but in the long term, that's not going to work out for you very well. You're going to probably end up getting a neck fusion. And so it's I think we need to be mindful of that and understand it. And I think now, more than 7 years ago, people are totally open, and maybe it's social media, maybe it's a lot of different things, but it was a lot harder to explain these concepts to people for me when I started my career because it was more foreign. It was just people got it when I explained it, but now people already know it.
Interesting.
Yeah. I do think there is a bit of a cultural reckoning that we've had over the last 5-6 years with social media and just kind of as
nutritional stuff especially.
seed oils,
supplements and
That's
vitamins.
now in the
That's a thing.
common lexicon that seed oils are not the best,
Yeah.
and we're moving away from that.
And
High fructose corn
99% of the restaurants around all use it, unfortunately.
Yeah, you have to ask if you want your food cooked in butter,
Yeah,
and I'm scared to do that. So
I do it.
you do?
Yeah.
I'm too shy.
You would.
Yeah.
I'm not
would.
generally shy, but I am shy when it comes to saying, can you use butter?
Yep.
But yeah, I think that is maybe a positive thing that we're becoming aware of those things, and maybe we still
that's
need
great.
guidance from people like y'all. But it's probably generally a good trend that people are starting to become a little bit more conscious of those things.
Makes our jobs easier.
Yeah, there's a lot less education up front that you have to do.
Yeah.
You can kind of dive into things
Or you
more,
can just get into the details rather than
Yeah.
start with the basic stuff, which
Right.
is cool.
for sure.
Well, dude, I'm so excited to have had you guys.
Yeah, thanks for
Like,
coming
I've looked
in.
forward to this one for a bit. I've tried to get this happen on a few runs before,
I don't feel like this has been a long
but we're
time
both
coming.
busy. Yeah, so I'm stoked to have you.
Yeah.
Well, everything happens for a reason. And I think we had a very effective and educational podcast today, so I'm glad it happened right now.
Yeah, I agree. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'll put like your email and whatnot,
Yeah,
like your home address in the link below.
great.
I'll put the email in the link below, and people can reach out if they want to.
Yeah, well, I'll text you all the information that
Cool.
I think you might want to apply or add to any of the links.
Yeah, that
Flash
sounds
on the
better.
screen.
Yeah,
That sounds better than what I said.
great. Well, great hanging with you guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, now make sure you sit with good posture. No seed oil.
Taylor's gonna get a live adjustment now. Yeah. We're gonna put him right on this table.
We had so many opportunities.
We took off in that plane. Your eyes grew wide, and we soared into the sunrise.